Okay.
All right, cool. Very good to see you.
You too,
Uh,
thanks.
just to start off, um, you presented your budget, and I just want to ask this question as maybe someone who doesn't know. What does this budget actually mean?
Okay, so majority, about, let me say, 90% of the budget is conditional grants. So we get very little from equitable share. Equitable share is provincially sourced funds, so that we get from provincial treasury. What we get from provincial treasury is for compensation of employees and for our payments on rates and taxes, and some money for goods and services. But the bulk of our budget is for conditional grants. The first one is for HSDG, or Human Settlement Development Grant. And that's money that we transfer to local municipalities for the provision of bulk, in the main for the provision of bulk, and top structures. And then we transfer to metro municipalities for the provision of top structures. It's mostly now being used in our mega projects. So we've used the mega project rollout to be able to make provision for mixed typology of housing units. So it's RDP, walk-ups. We also have an allocation for military veterans. We also have an allocation for people living with disabilities. We also have an allocation for special needs households, if I could put it that way. And then in the mega human settlements developments, there's what we refer to as FLISP, or subsidized houses. And then also, in some mega human settlements projects, we have a program called land, land, it's zoned serviced land that we give to you for development yourself. So we pay for those services. And the last type is bonded houses. So majority of our funding in the Sedibeng and the West Rand is to be able to continue putting bulk services. West Rand, we're going to focus on Mogale City. That's where most of our mega projects are, with the biggest problems. And then in Sedibeng, we've got the mega projects, but they don't have big problems. They have been actually performing very well. What we give them, they spend. They're able to demonstrate that they can spend. And then in the metros, Tshwane, Johannesburg, and Ekurhuleni, because of the conditions of the fund, of the grant, we are actually constrained. We can only just spend on the top structure. So it hampers us a bit, because it means that the municipality must have put the bulk infrastructure there. But we are working with especially with the minister at National Human Settlements, of how can we augment what metros have put in. So where they are ready with bulk, we'll fund the top structures so that we can complete, or at least move on the mega projects. The second conditional grant is for informal settlement upgrades. Now, in the past, we were spending a lot of money on sanitation solutions, and the minister has directed that we provide more permanent sanitation solutions. So there's a lot of alternate solutions out there in the market. We've got 2 informal settlements that have got pilots of alternate solutions, so they don't use water as much. It's not the flush type. You don't need to come and drain out the waste on the sanitation. So we're piloting those in informal settlements. But we've got informal settlements that are ready to be eradicated. So those that houses are ready, they must be moved from those, so that we can demolish irregular structures, and rehabilitate the land that they are on. A lot of it needs rehabilitation for either for ESCOM requirements, for Transnet requirements. Some of the land is unsuitable for human habitation, so they'll be rehabilitated, not for anyone to come and live on. A lot of informal settlements are in places that we're not meant to be on them. So they're on floodlines, they are on dolomitic land, they are on areas, like I said, that's on top of ESCOM infrastructure, or on top of underground Transnet infrastructure. So they pose a high risk. And so the second part of our budget, which is the conditional grant for informal settlements, will be focused and used on that.
To go back a bit, and especially what you raised about the Ekurhuleni and Simeon side, the major projects that are happening there. I'm aware of a major project which also includes an airport and I think construction. I think I want to find out, is it a predominantly private sector led, partnered with government, or government led type of partnered with the private sector?
Okay, so that is the special economic zone in the southern corridor. It is it's a okay, so it's in one part it is driven by the private sector, and the other part is driven by the public sector. So the one part, when I say one part, I mean geographically, and because I don't have a map, I can't show you on the map. So the area that will that has in the master plan the development of the airport that you speak about is driven by the private sector. There's already commitments of about 3 billion over the next 3 years from the private sector to invest. But of course, and that's how the special economic zones work. You put it out to the private sector, they show an interest, they make a determination of what they will invest on using government incentives. So government incentivizes it. It's regulated by the National Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. They do they do all the sort of rebates and everything that goes with investing in an SEZ. And then the other part is a housing development. So we are involved in that together with National Department of Human Settlements and the other SOEs Rent Water, etc. are also involved there. So we consolidated. Our responsibility was to consolidate all government-owned land into one. We've completed that process. So it was municipal-owned, ours, Rand Water owned some. It was donated and then consolidated for a single development. So that process is concluded. And now I'm sure this financial year will see the commencement of the building of the infrastructure in terms of the services by the municipality. So we would also be involved in that because it has got an element of a mixed human settlement.
Before I let my colleague take over, Ekurhuleni faces particularly a major problem of what is termed by EFF expropriation of land without compensation, and that has led to a lot of settlement, especially in areas of Dona where you find unmined land and well, land that is not suitable for residential. What is the backlog in terms of housing within the province, consolidated or the municipalities that, and what are the units, what are the units that have been rolled out so far to mitigate on that?
So we have unverified. So you would have heard in my speech that we're going to go through a process of re-verification. So we have an unverified amount of about 1.2 million on the housing needs register. But it is not, it's so a lot of those who are in informal settlements are not necessarily on the housing needs register because they don't qualify for various reasons. So either they are non-South African citizens or they were allocated a house previously and no longer qualify because they were allocated a home. But if you look at the Ekurhuleni plan, each of their mega projects are linked to an informal settlement. So they have got an informal settlement eradication plan, and their human settlement plan is linked to that. It doesn't include the new informal settlements that have sprawled up possibly in the last 6 to 8 years. And of course, compensation without or you said what they refer to as yes, there is a process to do that. So yes, we can take over private property or land if the private sector is not willing to sell, but it must be that which land and property that government can use. So we can't expropriate land that we are unable to use. So we're working very closely with the municipality, but in essence, we have to work with law enforcement agencies, Department of Home Affairs, to deal with the other elements that we can't service. So, like I said, those that 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 don't qualify, either because they're not South African citizens, or somebody may have been allocated a house in another province and has now relocated. We do have to provide alternative solutions for them. So there's rental stock, or the build yourself, the Ekurhuleni process, or giving them opportunities of bonded homes. But in terms of the fully subsidized, which is your RDP, those we're working with the municipality, so it's linked to the informal settlements that they had mapped, they can account for, they've budgeted for over a period of years. But on the needs register, the housing needs register, which is a national register, we have about 1.2 to 1.3 million